My wife hired a private investigator while I cheated with my secretary. For years, I thought I was living the dream. A beautiful wife who adored me, a stable job that afforded us a comfortable lifestyle, and a home filled with warmth and laughter. But life isn't a fairy tale. And as it turns out, I wasn't the hero of this story. I was the villain. It all began innocently enough. Or at least that's what I told myself. Her name was Rachel, my new secretary. Fresh out of college, she was sharp, ambitious, and had an infectious smile that lit up the office. At first, our interactions were professional. Polite greetings, brief exchanges about schedules and tasks. But over time, those conversations grew longer, more personal. A shared laugh here, a compliment there. I knew I was playing with fire, but the thrill was intoxicating. At home, my wife Sarah noticed the changes. The late nights at work, the quick glances at my phone, the way I seemed distracted even when we were together. Sarah wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, the one person who could see through my facade. And yet, I underestimated her. I underestimated the lengths she would go to uncover the truth. One evening, as I sat at the dinner table scrolling through emails, Sarah's voice cut through my thoughts. "Who's Rachel?" she asked casually, her tone betraying nothing. My heart skipped a beat, but I quickly masked my surprise. "My secretary," I replied, keeping my voice even. "Why?" She shrugged, brushing off the question as if it were of no consequence. But that night, as I lay in bed next to her, my mind raced. Had I been careless? Was she suspicious? I dismissed the thought, convincing myself that I was being paranoid. Sarah was trusting, almost to a fault. She would never suspect me of something so despicable. Or so I believed. Unbeknownst to me, Sarah had already taken the first step toward uncovering my betrayal. A week earlier, she had noticed a smudge of lipstick on my collar, a shade she never wore. She'd also found receipts for dinners I'd never mentioned and caught the faintest whiff of perfume that wasn't hers. While I dismissed her growing unease as paranoia, she was quietly gathering evidence. And then she made a decision that would change everything. She hired a private investigator. The investigator, Mark, was a seasoned professional. He'd seen it all: the lies, the secrets, the heartbreak. When Sarah came to him with her suspicions, he listened intently, jotting down notes as she recounted the small inconsistencies in my behavior. He assured her that he would handle everything discreetly and advised her to remain patient. The next few weeks passed uneventfully, at least from my perspective. I continued my affair with Rachel, oblivious to the fact that I was being watched. Mark followed me everywhere. To the office, to lunch dates with Rachel, to the hotel where we met in secret. He photographed everything. The lingering touches, the stolen kisses, the way we laughed like carefree lovers. He compiled a damning dossier that left no room for doubt. Meanwhile, Sarah pretended everything was normal. She greeted me with a smile when I came home, cooked my favorite meals, and even suggested a weekend getaway to reconnect. Her composure was unnerving, but I was too wrapped up in my double life to notice the cracks beneath her calm exterior. The confrontation came on a rainy Friday evening. I walked into the living room to find Sarah sitting on the couch, a folder resting on the coffee table in front of her. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes betrayed a storm of emotions. "We need to talk," she said quietly. My stomach churned as I sat down across from her. She slid the folder toward me, her hands trembling slightly. "Open it," she said. Reluctantly, I obeyed. The first photo was a grainy shot of Rachel and me walking into the hotel. The second showed us sitting at a corner table in a dimly lit restaurant, her hand resting on mine. There were dozens more, each one more incriminating than the last. "How long?" Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper, but the pain in her tone was unmistakable. I couldn't meet her eyes. "A few months," I admitted, my voice hollow. She nodded as if she'd expected the answer but hoped for something different. "Why?" she asked, her voice breaking. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Her questions shattered me. I wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, that she'd done nothing wrong. But the truth was, I didn't have an answer. I'd let my ego and insecurities lead me down a path of destruction, and now I was reaping the consequences. The days that followed were a blur. Sarah moved out, taking only what she needed. The house, once filled with laughter and love, felt cold and empty. Word of the affair spread quickly. Colleagues whispered behind my back, friends distanced themselves, and Rachel, faced with the fallout, ended things between us. I was left alone to face the wreckage I'd created. In the months that followed, I began to rebuild my life. I started therapy, hoping to understand the choices that had led me to betray the person who loved me most. I reached out to Sarah, not to win her back, but to apologize and take responsibility for my actions. She listened, her expression guarded, and thanked me for my honesty. But her eyes told me what I already knew. There was no going back. Sarah, too, embarked on her own journey of healing. She leaned on friends and family, took up yoga, and even started painting again, a hobby she'd abandoned years ago. Over time, she rediscovered her strength and independence, proving to herself and the world that she didn't need me to be whole. A year later, we ran into each other at a coffee shop. She looked radiant, her smile genuine and unburdened. We exchanged pleasantries, catching up like old friends. When I apologized once more, she placed a hand on mine and said, "I forgave you a long time ago. For me, not for you." Her words, though kind, were a reminder of the pain I'd caused and the love I'd lost. Life went on. I continued therapy, built healthier relationships, and worked to become a better version of myself. But I never forgot the lesson Sarah taught me. Love is a gift, not a guarantee. And once broken, some things can never be fully mended.